Hello everyone, I'm Bogdan. Now, this is part 2 of our 3-part tutorial video on how to create a project with InstaDoodle. If this is the first time you're seeing this series, I would recommend that you visit the first part first and then go into this one so it doesn't feel overwhelming. I also want to mention that we will be speeding a few things up in this part just so we don't take too much of your time. But if you're ever interested, we can also create a full training video that shows the entire process without speeding up anything. So if that's what you want, let us know and we'll upload that as well. So let's get started. We were just about to create our 4th slide, so let's go ahead and do it. And the first element that I want is my main character. We're going to use the same prompt that we did before. Now this is very important. I'll also add the details of one hand is resting on her hip while the other is gently placed on her lip. And just like that, we have the one that I want. I'm going to set the animation to pop in, modify the animation details a little bit. And now I want a wedge of cheese. So let's go with the prompt, a wedge of Parmesan cheese in its original packaging shaped like a triangle. The packaging is clear plastic showing the golden hard texture of the cheese and a label indicating the product details. And now that we have that one, let's go with a package of uncooked spaghetti with the pasta visible through the transparent window in a colorful, playful design. And we found, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put it in and slide it over in the middle of the slide. And we'll modify the animation speed a little bit. And now we also want to add text. So let's add a wedge of Parmesan cheese, just arrange it a little bit, modify the animation speed and an arrow just like we did with the other slides. And now we'll add another text element, a red one this time that shows 500 grams, and then another text element of spaghetti, modify the animation speed, add another arrow and position it right there. So now we need a voiceover. So let's generate one. Using Sophie, I'm gonna do let's not forget the spaghetti. And for an even better flavor, let's also add some Parmesan cheese. This will elevate the dish and bring out the rich, savory taste of the bolognese sauce. Now I'm just gonna modify the animation speed of a few elements and set the transition type of the slide itself to wipe. And then we can move on to the next slide. And now we need Maria, so let's use the same prompt, and at the end we're going to add both of her hands crossed in front of her with a focused expression on her face. And as you can see, this was the result. Change the animation type, and now we need the spaghetti being boiled in water. So let's use the prompt, a large pot of boiling water with uncooked spaghetti partially submerged, steam rising gently from the surface. Now we also need a background, so let's use the prompt, a subtle faded kitchen background with soft neutral colors. The kitchen elements are barely visible. This one is basically what I'm looking for. So let's position this. Let's just make sure that in the layers it's set to be the first element being drawn and modify the animation speed. Let's also add a speech bubble and add some text where we say that it's step 1 and modify it to red, set the animation speed and everything, and add another text element where we say boil the spaghetti in salted water and just modify those animations as well. Just check the order, make sure that everything's okay, and then we can go with the voiceover. The voiceover for this slide, I want to be the first step is to add the spaghetti to salted water and let it boil until it's perfectly al dente, just the right texture. Once that's done, remember to check that the slide duration is a little bit longer than the voiceover, set the transition to wipe, and I'll just add a little bit of blur to the background as well. And now we can move on to the next slide. Now on this slide, I actually want to modify Maria just a little bit because she's taking a break while the spaghetti is being boiled. So I'm going to use the prompt, a female chef with red hair, braided, brown eyes, wearing a short sleeve white shirt and an apron with the word Olira on it. She has a slight smile on her face. And once she's added to the canvas, what I want to do now is, of course, modify the animation type, animation speed, and end delay if needed. And I'm going to add the background that we've used initially in the first slide and add a little bit of blur to make it a bit more familiar. And in this scene, I also want a timer. So let's go ahead and choose this one and add it to the scene. It's going to need a little bit of assistance. So let's add a text element, make it red to make it pop up a little bit and show that it's 15 minutes that we have to let it boil. And now that we have the slide, let's go ahead and generate the voiceover. The voiceover is going to be, we let the pasta boil for 15 minutes and once it's ready, we'll move on to the next step to complete our delicious dish. Generate it with Sophie, add it to the slide, Now remember to check the length of the voiceover and the length of the slide so we don't have any interruptions in audio. And I'm just gonna change the animations a little bit for these elements that we've added and add an end delay to the last element that we have drawn. And let's not forget to change the transition type to wipe. And now we can move on to the next slide. Now in this one, Maria is gonna have her chef hat back on. So let's use the same prompt that we used initially and add, she holds a sharp knife in one hand while the other rests on her hip. Once she's on the canvas, we can also go ahead and add the chopping board that we've used before, because I'm going to add the vegetables on the chopping board, but this time they're going to be actually chopped. The prompts we're going to use are chopped carrots into small uniform pieces with natural orange color and texture visible. The pieces are finely diced, and then finely chopped garlic ready to be added to the dish with small uniform pieces scattered on a cutting board, and then small pieces of chopped yellow onion with half a larger piece of yellow onion placed next to a finely chopped pile ready to be added to a dish. Now that we have them generated, let's add them all to the board. And I'm just going to move them a little bit lower like this. Let's also add the speech bubble that we're used to, and we can also modify the animation speed and animation type of each of the new elements that we put in to the canvas. So let's also add a text element, one that we will use to show step 2 in a red color, and then just modify the animation speed of it. And for the text below, we'll use chopping the vegetables and modify the speed of that as well. We'll also use arrows to indicate each and every vegetable that we have on our chopping board, just like we did in our first few slides. Modify the animation speed of those, and then add more arrows and more text showing the garlic. Modify the animation speed, and then another curved arrow pointing at the onion, and make it the onion, give it a bit of panache, and then modify the speed and give it an end delay. So we have quite a few elements, so I'm going to use the layers tab to just modify the timing of each to make it so the veggies appear first, followed by the arrows, and then the text for each. We also need a voiceover, and it's going to be, the second step is to finely chop the onion, garlic, and carrot. These ingredients are essential to building a flavorful base for our bolognese sauce. They will infuse the dish with a rich aromatic taste that enhances every bite. Now once we've checked the transition type and the slide duration, we can move on to the next one, where we'll have Maria again with her hat on, so we'll use the same prompt, but we'll also add that she has a confident look in her eye. I also want this scene to have a pan with all the veggies inside of it. So I'm going to use the generate with AI and the prompt, small pieces of onion, garlic, carrot sautéing in a pan. The vegetables are sizzling in hot oil, softening and releasing their flavors, creating a savory aroma as they cook together. And now once we've chosen the one we liked, which is the fourth one in my case, we'll go on and generate the background. The prompt that I'm going to use is barely visible background with subtle outlines of a kitchen. And I do like this first one, but there is one thing that I don't want in there, which is that window on the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the eyedropper tool to select the white, and using that white, color over the window, and just like that it disappears, and we can now use it as a background. I'll just use about maybe 30% of it and just blur it a little bit and just modify the animation speed of each element within the slide. We'll also add a speech bubble and put step 3 in red and modify the animation speed for each, and then we can also add the text, we cook the vegetables. So now after we're done with the animation speed of each element, we can also add a voiceover to this slide. The voiceover for this one is going to be quite short, and it's going to be saute the onion, garlic, and carrot together to start building the flavor. So because the voiceover is so short, we need to make sure that the animation speed is also somewhat short. We'll also set the transition type to wipe, and that about does it for part 2. Thank you very much for listening. I hope to see you in part 3, where we will be wrapping everything up.